Okay. So now that hopefully everyone's logged in, we're going to be going over the Teach tab to start. So first things first, we're going to start off with our lessons. So we'll all click in on that drop down and click on lessons. And that'll bring us to our active lessons over under my work. And to create a new one, we'll just click on the new lesson tab, the dark blue one up in the top. Okay. Now, when creating these lessons, you can break it off by grade level, by student, and down below, the additional resources is going to be the amount of resources pulled in for that student's differentiated resources. So I always think that 7 to 10 is a lot for a student to do, especially if you're giving them a timeline of like a week. So depending on how long that you plan on having them complete this lesson plan for, you can change those resources to a more doable amount. So I'm just going to start off by making it 2 to 3. And then from there, we can start creating this lesson plan. So whatever grade level you're teaching, we'll check off. Now, you don't have to copy my exact lesson format. You can create your own grade level that you'd like to focus on with your kids. But I'll just stick with grade 4 for now. My subject that I'll be focusing in on will be science. The topic we'll do our planet and beyond. And then I'll focus on fossils. So now, once we have all of our topics, subtopics, subtopics, if there is one for that description that you've been given, we can just click next. So I'll give you all like a minute to basically go through and create that little section, and then I'll stick to this page right here when we get to next. Okay. All righty. So once we hit that next tab, it's going to pull open the differentiated resources for whichever topic we've chosen. Now, in my case, we're doing fossils. Each student is then going to receive 2 to 3 resources that best match their profile for the grade level selected. So if we chose a 4th grade lesson plan, we can send that out to our 4th grade students. We could also send that out to 3rd graders, but they'll still be getting the 4th grade course material. So that would be a way to kind of either challenge a student more or just focus in on their own grade level. That's definitely something that you could kind of narrow down by just by choosing the grade level of the lesson plan. Now, students are going to receive 2 to 3 resources from those 647 that best match their profile. So it's going to be pulling in resources that hopefully fit those interests and learning styles. But you can also go ahead and customize it so each student would get at least one specific resource of your choosing as well. Like if you found a virtual field trip or critical thinking activity that you thought would work well with the entire student group that you have, you could attach that to the lesson plan as well. So if you didn't feel like going through all of that, we could just click assign now, but we'll customize it just to get that feel. So right here, we'll all click the light blue customize button, and then it will bring us to those 647 resources for fossils. All right. And now right here, we can narrow it down by the type of resource. So we don't have to look through 647. I'll just break it down into like an online activity. We'll do fossil mystery games, add in a virtual field trip, the fossil museum tour, and so on. And you can add in whichever resources that you would like. I know that some of the Spanish resources might pop up. We're actually going through and removing those from the English site. There was a little mix up when the curator was adding them in the other week. So we are flipping those onto the Spanish version. But yeah, so if there are any of those, don't worry, you can just go to the next page and choose from the ones that are not in Spanish. But yeah, so you can go through and check them out. And all of these, you can just click in on that link and it'll take you to the description for that. And then you can actually go and check out that activity. So if I wanted to go to the fossil museum, I could go through and now see what my students would be seeing upon sending it out. So maybe we'll look at the horseshoe crab. It shows us the close-ups and a much better idea as to what these horseshoes used to look like in the past, these fossils. They don't look too different, I guess. So yeah, we'd be able to go through and send out these resources to our students and just exclude and add in whichever ones you'd like. So if everyone wants to go ahead and just add in a couple, I'll wait. And then once you have it, so you have your resources added on that will be in each student's, we'll just click next afterwards.
Then if a student's really loving a unit and
Mhm.
they've done their 3 resources, do you have the ability to go back in and up that if it's not something they want to let go of?
Most definitely. And like in that case where you want to just send out some more resources, I mean, I'd say like the assign now button and just adding like 7 to 10 would be super doable in like a minute. So you could just recreate that lesson plan for that one student. And instead of doing the 2 to 3, you could bump it up to 10 to 15, 20 to 30, like however many that they'd really like to go through, especially like if they are into like history like fossils or any like dinosaurs. Like you can always add in create another lesson plan and just choose from their personalized resources instead.
So you have to start over and create a new lesson. You can't add them into the current one.
No, so you wouldn't be able to add in more of those into a already sent out lesson plan.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay. So once we all finish up there, when we click next, what this is going to do is it's going to take us to the next section of our lesson. So this is going to be the questions. We can either have no assessment questions. You can check off KWL. What did you know? What did you want to learn? What did you actually learn? We also have some pre-made questions under choose questions. Now, my favorite in here is the pretend you are the teacher. How would you explain something important you learned today to another student? You can check off whichever ones you'd like for the students to have. And then you could also go ahead and write your own questions if you'd like to do that as well. Now, I'll just stick with the choose pre-made questions. And then once we have our questions chosen, go ahead and click next. So again, I'll give you like a minute or two to go through, and then I'll just wait for you here at the next step. All righty. So next would just be adding in some directions. Now, if this isn't going to have like a specific due date where they have to do it by tomorrow or the next day or whenever, like you can check off like the entire year if you'd wanted. It just requires a due date on the system to be able to be sent out. So if you wanted them to have as much time as they'd like, you can check it off all the way back to June, so they could have their entire school year. Now, if you wanted them to complete this by next Friday, we can go ahead, check that off. I think that was actually perfect. Yeah, so next Friday, and then give them some directions. And maybe it's complete the 2 teacher required activities. And then 3 of your personalized, or whatever it might be. If you sent out 7 to 10, it might just be choosing from a short amount of it, the entire thing. It's up to you. But we'd go through, add in those directions, and then down on the bottom, we'd have our student roster where we'd be able to check off those kids that we're going to be sending it out to. Now, the assign, this is going to be any groups that you have in the system, which I'll get into later when we're creating our groups. But you can definitely go ahead and narrow it down by grade level, by students' interest areas, and then go ahead and just add those into this lesson plan. And just like before, it doesn't matter if I'm sending out this 4th grade lesson plan to a 7th grade student, it's just going to be the actual resources being sent out and personalized. So those higher level students can still get lower level work if that's what you'd like as well. But once we have all of our students checked off, the directions and the end dates submitted, we would just go down to the bottom right of the screen and click assign. Once our lesson's been assigned, we can click done. We can review the lesson. I'll just click done for now and show you how to review it later. So once we click done, it brings us over to our active lessons, and we should see our fossils assignment right here. Now, to review what's happened, we can do that 2 different ways. We can either preview it or view the report. So the purple tab we'll start with first, which is view report. Did anybody have any trouble getting back to the active lessons? Okay, awesome. All right, so let's all click in on view report, and that should bring us to the student lesson plan that we've just sent out and the active students on it and the actual assignment status. So we see that 0 of the students have not viewed it. I mean, all of the students have not viewed it. So out of the 5 kids, that gives us just a little graph as to what's happening. Once students have not started it, but they've actually taken a look in the lesson plan, it'll change the color for those kids. Same idea for started and completed. So right here should give you a good idea as to what's happening within this lesson plan, if any students have even taken a look at it. And then the send messages is actually, to me, the easiest way to have that completed lesson plan chosen for students. So when we click on send messages, it'll pull up our student list, and instead of going through and seeing which student it is, if we click not viewed, it'll automatically check it off for us. Not started, we have none because all of them haven't viewed it. So it just is an easy way to kind of check off those kids automatically for you, for then just an easy message in the system by saying, hey, I see that you haven't started your lesson plan. It should be right on your student dashboard. Get started. So that's one way to review the student work. Now we go back to those lessons, and it should bring us again right back to the active. We can also try to preview a lesson. So when we click on preview, it'll pull up our students' questions and the activities. So if your student has not completed a profile yet, they won't have any activities within there. And then if you want to focus in on a specific student's lesson plan, you can go to My Students, choose James Archer, and then see the questions that they've been answering. So that's one way to review their work. It's just by going into the preview and seeing the completed questionnaire, I guess, within their lesson plan. All right. Yeah. And then right here, you can only edit the directions for the assignment. So you can't go back and actually change those resources. So we probably just have to create another lesson plan for those students. All righty. So any questions on sending out lessons? Or reviewing them? Okay, awesome. So brief little topic. I think that lessons are one of the easiest and most personal ways to be sending out those resources, just because it's still going to be bringing in those students' profiles and differentiating it on their end. So I definitely recommend lessons before sending out an assignment. It's also a lot quicker. So if we did want to send out another fossils assignment to that student who really liked it, we just go through and choose those same areas that we were in before, except now, instead of choosing, what did I choose? Right here. Now, instead of narrowing this down, we can just make it longer. So we'll do 10 to 15, and then just choose that one student who really liked it, and just assign it to them directly without the questions. So that would be another way to extend that lesson plan for those students, and it shouldn't take too long to go ahead and do so. All right. So now that we're all set with lessons, we'll jump into assignments. Now it's going to bring us to pretty much the same screen where we have the new lesson up top, except on this page, it's onto the left side. The My Work is going to have our active assignments here. To create a new assignment, instead of clicking New Lesson, we're actually going to click on the purple drop down, and then we can either do a new assignment from scratch or a new assignment from a template. So we'll start off with just creating a new assignment from scratch. We'll give it our assignment name. We'll do fossils because we're already there. And then you can decide if it's going to be a collaborative assignment or just a singular student assignment. So if you want to send it out to a group of kids or just your one student. I'll just leave it at one kid, save and continue. And now we pretty much go through this checklist of descriptions, the resources, the student directions, and then assigning it. So if I'm sending this out to 6th graders for science, and the description is fossils, obviously it'd be a little bit more, but we'd go through and again, just continue with finding these resources, providing student directions, and giving them an idea for this assignment. So we can add in enrichment activities from my favorites, or we can search activities right here and add in those resources to this assignment. So we'll do fossils at a 4th grade level, search, and then we have our whole bunch of resources. So from here, we'd go through and just add in a assignment once we've found it. So we'll do an evolving planet attached to assignment or project. And then save and return to assignment/project. Okay. Any questions there so far? I know I kind of sped through that one. All right, awesome. So next, again, pretty much the name of the game is save and continue. We go through, start providing student directions. So right here would be the actual assignment. Complete the enrichment activity and answer these questions. 1, 2, 3, whatever they might be. So we'd go through, create this new assignment, and then save and continue in the bottom right. And now we'd be able to assign it, check off a due date, and check off those students. So we'll have it be due 2 weeks. We'll send it out to first group of students. And then again, down in the bottom right, save and continue. You can add in some notes. Any questions you have, reach out to me. Save and continue. Now you get to see this actual assignment before being sent out. So this is our fossils assignment. It looks fantastic. There's almost no information here, but it's exactly what we needed. We have the students right there. And then once we're all set, we would just click save and continue. And then right here is going to be this last step where we're submitting this assignment to our students. So instead of the assignment status being under construction, We're going to change this to send to students and click go. Once we click go, that's going to be sent out to all of their home pages as their assignment. It'll show that due date and they'll hopefully get started and complete and submit that work. The last step, 9, sharing it. So this step is not necessary, but if it is something that you'd like to do, you're more than able to go ahead and do it. Pretty much for any assignments in the system that you edit or create, you're able to publish as a template for your school or district. So other teachers would be able to use that assignment that you created and sent out to your kids. So it's just a way for teachers to be able to share work. Again, if you're choosing from one of the templates that we have pre-made with all of the work already in it and you didn't make any changes, then there's no need to share as a template. But we'll get into that as the next one. But yeah, so once we're completed, we can see that assignment in our active assignments for fossils. And then previewing would be the way to review that work that our students have done. So we'll get back to preview. And now you can just leave comments for Ben Archer and view the assignment for any student as well. So any questions on those assignments that we are creating from scratch?
So Ben, that's just the main difference. Assignments are things that we set up ourselves. Lessons
Yeah.
are
Yeah, so lessons are all going to be personalized from that profiler, whereas like the assignments, even the ones from the templates, like when I'll jump into this, like you can choose from these pre-made ones, but they're not going to be specific per like a student's profile. So it's not that differentiated. It still has some options that you can narrow down or that they could choose from, but it's not always going to be like this set of enrichment activities being pulled into their account. So that would be the difference. And I mean, the time difference, a lesson plan could take a day or a week, depending on how many activities and questions you give them. Whereas the assignments could be almost a project like type of assignment where it could take a couple of weeks, depending on how big it actually is.
Okay, cool.
Okay. All right, and that brings me to the next place, which would be the assignments drop down again, but now we're going to be doing a new assignment from a template. So right here, we could all click in. It'll bring us to a very similar looking page, except down at the bottom, we have the quick template lookup, where we can check off a grade level, a subject area, social studies, and then you can choose from one of the templates. So we'll check out Presidential Inauguration Day. It gives you a very wide variety of grade levels for this one. Sometimes it'll be very specific to one grade. Sometimes it'll be all over the place. In this case, all over the place. And then down below, we have our student directions. So what would it be like to be the president for a day? Brainstorm what you believe you would do as the president. It has a couple different enrichment activities that they'll have to go through and complete. And then down below, they have their actual assignments to turn in. So imagine that you're a reporter, write a news article, or create a timeline, or write an inauguration speech. So in this case, like this would probably be a 2-week project, well, 2-week assignment. And once you decided that this was something that you'd like to work on, we could all just use this as a template. So once we're using it as a template, if we saw it as perfect, there wasn't anything that we needed to change, we could just save and review it. But if you wanted to make some changes to this assignment before sending it out, just like before when we were creating our own, you can save and continue and make these changes to this pre-made assignment. So if you decided that the student directions needed to be changed a little bit, you wanted to add in your own or remove one of these assignment options, you can go through and get rid of them. Get rid of the entire thing if you wanted and just use the resources. It's really up to you. But yeah, so you'd be able to go through each step. Step 5, you'd have to go through and add in those students again. So we'll give them 2 weeks. Oh, that's 3. That's fine. Check off those kids. And up on top here, you can narrow it down by grade level if you'd like. But then once we have all of that set up, pretty much go through just like before, except the last step, again, be submitting it where we would change it to send to students. And then once we're all set, click go. And now they've all been sent out their presidential inauguration assignment that they have to complete by 10/20. So any questions on those teacher templates that you can use from and edit, or anything about assignments that you'd like for me to go over? Okay, awesome. All righty. So next tab under teach is going to be projects. Again, it's going to bring us to a very similar looking screen where it brings us to our active projects on the left side for my work. And again, like if you're sending out a lesson, assignment, or project and you can't find one that you sent out, it might just be in your drafts. You didn't complete that last step where it's the send to students and click and go. So nothing's ever lost, like it would just be populated right here. But for these projects, just like on the student site, you have the option for super starters or creating a new project from scratch. So we'll start out with the new project from scratch. And then we're going to check off a project type. So on our teacher end, we have the easy projects, the standard project, or the community service project. And again, those high school projects are coming. But in these cases, you can check them off however you'd like. It gives you a bit of an idea as to what the projects are right here. So a simplified version of our module for pre-K through 3. And then the regular Renzulli learning project, and then the super starter template and so on. So you'd be able to check those off and then choose from the project you'd like to work on and send out. So we'll just do an easy project for now. We'll give it a title, Halloween, and then save and go to Wizard. And now instead of those 5 steps for the younger students, just going to be plan, find, and share. We can go ahead and write in our project description, the dates that they'll have, and then the intended product that we're going to be sending out to our kids. So right now, we'll just check it off as when was Halloween founded. Go through, add in whatever else you'd like, save, and then now we have our question that's going to be asked to our students in the beginning. For the project dates, you can go ahead and add in those dates. We'll have a review date on the 13th, and we'll save that. And now in this case, where you're creating a project, it doesn't have to be something from scratch. If you have pre-made projects and you just want your students using this little format of planning, you're able to basically copy and paste in a project that you've already pre-built and just have them work within the system. And for the intended product, we'll do wear your Halloween costume. Something like that. And now we have our Halloween project. They'll go ahead and add in the resources that they use to find out this information for Halloween that we had asked. And then they can share that project into the product showcase afterwards. Now, once we have this project completed, we can go ahead and go back to our projects where it's going to be in our drafts. I'll wait for everyone to get there. So again, that's just clicking back on projects. And then on the left drop down, we're going to be clicking on drafts. All righty. And now once we get here, our Halloween project should be right at the top. To assign this over to kids, we're just click on this green tab right here, assign. And then that will pull up our student list where we'll check off those kids, give them some notes. Good luck. And then right here, we would submit this, and now we would be able to send out that Halloween project to all of our students that we had assigned it to. Alrighty, so any questions there? Awesome, okay. So just like on the lessons and assignments, if you'd like to preview that project for your students, you can just click preview. It'll show those students and you can just go ahead and click on one of their names to find it. You'll also be able to review those projects and assignments from your student roster right here, and I'll jump into that as well. All right. Now, the other options for projects, whether it's creating your own, you could choose from the other ones, the standard or the community service, and send it out the same way. But if you wanted to focus on one of the super starters and send that out, instead of choosing a new project, we would just choose the projects drop down and click on super starter projects. Now from here, it's going to basically have all of those super starter projects in the system for you to go through. You'd check off your student's grade level and then the interest area. So if we're focusing on building things just like before, and we wanted to do the American Revolution at home, we could just click assign to just by looking at this description and then check off those kids and submit. And now they've all been sent out their American Revolution at home project. Now, if you wanted to go through and edit a project to add in some specifics or take out something, what we could do is we'd go to those super starter projects again. But in this case, after we found our project, instead of just clicking assign to, we're going to add it to our projects as the teacher. And now we can go ahead and make those changes. Oh, this is a long project. So in this case, where it's a super long project, it might not be the regular, like, oh, I'll give them 4 weeks and they'll have to complete it by then. Like you can go through and kind of get an idea for, oh, wait, actually, it's just different project areas right there. So this one looked a lot longer than it is. So you have your questions up at the top, the resources, and then they've also added in these 2 different project areas that they could choose from within the plan. So questions for the diary, if that's the project you're choosing, you go ahead and choose that and answer these questions within your diary. For your diorama, you would go through and complete this. So as the teacher, if you wanted to maybe make it so they had to choose from one option instead of 2 or add in another, you can go ahead and start taking out the ones that you're not going to have the students do. So I'll decide that the kids aren't going to be doing the diorama. They're just going to be focusing on that diary and turning it in. We go ahead, take out that questionnaire, save it, and now we have our edited project for the revolution. Down below the project dates, you can add in those specifics. So we'll be doing the 29th, and we'll have them finish it before Thanksgiving. So we'll do that Tuesday. Add a review date again, save, and now this whole project's been changed to fit our classroom a little bit more. Just like before, it's going to be in our project drafts right over here to the left under projects. And we can assign again right away. Okay, so any questions on those projects? All right, awesome. All right, so I'm gonna jump back into the monitoring another time for you, just to kind of go over what you might be able to see now just from your roster. So when we click in on my roster, just like before, it's gonna show us the same information where we have our students' profile status, their active lessons, projects, and assignments. But now that we've assigned a couple of these, they should all have at least one there. So to click in and view Liam Archer's projects, we just again click into view and then check on that project that we'd like to be seeing. So this is the one that's up at the top now, American Revolution at Home. We just sent it out to Liam. We click in on that American Revolution at Home. And then from there, it'll take us to their project. We can view and edit and see what they've been working on here. So shouldn't take too long to get to that student's work. Same thing for their assignments. So when we click back to that roster and we click on the view assignments for Liam, that'll bring us to their projects and assignment screen, where if you somehow have a student with 100 projects, it'll be under those 100 projects where you have those assignments. And then from right here, we can just click in and view that student's assignment and what they've done within it so far. All righty, so any questions on jumping in and seeing their lessons or their assignments or projects from their roster? Does that include the time spent on? Yes, so that will show you exactly how long they've had the assignment for, how long that they were in the enrichment activities and how long it took for them to complete that work. So whether it's the lessons, projects, or assignments, all of that will be populated in there as well. All righty, awesome. So next tab under Teach is going to be Unit Supplements. So Unit Supplements is under construction, but for right now, I believe that they have language arts pretty much finished up. So in this case, this is going to be some, I guess, like helping tools for either you or your classroom teachers to kind of focus in on a topic that you're going over in class that week. So for this, you check off your grade level, just like pretty much everything in the system, submit that, and then it will pull up those 3 through 5 language arts unit supplements that we have in the system right now. So if we were focusing on grade 5 ELA end of year review, we'd be able to go in, view this unit supplement. It can give us or our teachers an introduction as to how to use this within the classroom. So right here, that resource we'd be able to send out to those teachers or students. There's a teacher tip. And then you keep scrolling through. It has some thinking skills activities that, again, you can share with teachers or students to hopefully help alongside this ELA review. It also has this differentiation key. So for this activity, it's going to be focusing in on students with interest in fine arts, history and social studies, and science. Their learning styles are independence, simulation, and technology, and vice versa. So you could go through and kind of still personalize it for each student just by using this differentiation key, and then send that out with their kids that it fits alongside with a little bit more. Down below is those research, and then there's also some example keywords that you can have your students type into their search on their page. So this unit supplement would just be helping students gather in those research and thinking skills ideas. And to finish it off, we have our project ideas. So at the end of this lesson, whether it's just a quick little homework project or a full in-depth project, it'll have a couple different options that, again, the differentiation key will help. And the whole goal of the unit supplement is to focus in on some curriculum-based work, but have those differentiation tools to work alongside those teachers and students that you have. And you'd basically be able to go through, and again, like I know that prefixes and suffixes is a big one. It's probably the most used in the system. So for that, you'd view And again, it has just some tools as to how to introduce this to your students and teachers. I know that they're working on adding in the science, social studies, and then math will be last, but hopefully that's in shortly. I can't really give an exact timeline, but the language arts ones are definitely useful. So any questions on the unit supplements and how you might want to use it with the class? Okay, awesome. All righty, so now the next tab under teach is going to be search. So just like on your teacher dashboard, you have this search resources, except now it brings us under teach. So for here, if we want to focus in on the Middle Ages for 3 through 5 at a high level, we go through, click search, and it will bring up those resources for us. So 114. Now, if we wanted to focus on specific resources, again, those resource types over to the left is what we'd be able to dive into and only focus on those online activities or critical thinking activities. And now we have our more specific Middle Ages search. What we can also do is do a search as a student. So if I wanted to search as a student and use one of my students' profiles, I could go ahead and do so. So if I'm using Nikki's account and now I'm doing Middle Ages, it's going to pull up the resources that are most fit for her actual account based on her profile. So if I wanted to personalize her Middle Ages lesson plan for that week, I can send out this build a medieval castle to her, and it would again still be personalized and differentiated, but it didn't take us too long to actually send out this activity to Nikki and submit that. And now they've been sent out that lesson plan, well, that activity. Any questions on that search? Okay, awesome. So next is going to be the search by standards. So in this case, if we have your state, you can check it off. If we're just focusing in on Common Core, we would check off Common Core. And then from here, we would choose a subject area. So we'll be doing, let's do math. We're focusing in on 4th grade introduction. Choose the standard. And then check off these areas that we'd like to focus in on. And then once we've pretty much deduced our search, we would click search. And then it will pull up those grade specific Common Core standards, in this case for 4th grade introduction to math. And we would go ahead and either attach these to a project, or we could just straight up assign them by viewing the activity and checking off those share students. So yeah, be able to go through, it narrows it down up in the top to the types of resources, and then it just makes it a little bit easier to focus in on some state or grade specific standards based on the Common Core. And yeah, I'll give everybody like a minute or two to kind of go through and play around with that. I know that that one's used a lot within the system. So activities can be printed depending on the type of activity that you're sending out. Like if you're focusing in on like the research papers or like work that doesn't involve like an online activity, then yes, they're more than able to be printed out and handed out to students. But if you're sending out like any resource that is strictly based online, those ones will not be able to be printed out. For the projects and assignments that you're sending out to kids, those are all able to be printed out right at the top of any project under, I'll just go to projects, super starters, and I'll preview a Shakespeare experience. Right at the top, once I add it in, I can print it out. And on the student site as well, you're able to print out any activities from their end. So if you are sending out a project and you're saying, print out a Shakespeare experience, they'd be able to print those out as well. All right. So that's the search by standards. I'll jump into the rest in 1 second. One thing that I forgot to mention about your lesson plans is that upon sending this out, if you've completed your own profile on your teacher account, if you go to your student site, you'll have any active lessons that you've sent out from your student profile as well. So if I wanted to go view my fossils lesson plan that I just sent out to all the students from my end, I can go to my student dashboard, click on fossils, and then I'll have my personalized activities and my questions that I'd be answering. So I can see this from a student point of view and from my personalized activities as well to go check out these specific fossils activities. So that's one way to kind of have fun with the classroom where you can show them your activities as well and now how they differ from one another. So yeah, that would be one thing to do as well. All righty. So the next tab under Teach is going to be saved searches. So any searches that you save will populate here. Obviously, I have none, as it says, you currently have no saved searches. But pretty much whenever you're doing a search and you find something that you'd like to go back to, you're able to save that within any search that you've done. Your citations, just like on the student site, you're going to have any active citations that you've completed on your teacher end. And you can go through, edit the citation, delete the citation. Again, it's really up to you from what you'd like to do within the system. Under your Teach tab, we'll also have our favorites. So for your favorites, anything that you've favorited in the site will populate here. So if you wanted to go back and check out the Tale of Two Beasts, the story online, we can go ahead and share this with students or teachers. If you wanted to focus on the project of uncertainty, you can go ahead and share those with teachers and students. So this is really just going to be your bookmark on your teacher site for activities that you've liked and that you just weren't able to send out that day. There's also a cool thing that happens within favorites. If you favorite an activity because you liked it and a student favorites that same activity, it'll actually populate on that student's account where it'll show a student and teacher favorite. So it's a cool way to kind of see those similarities between teachers and students as well. Any questions on those favorites, save searches, or citations? All righty. So next tab under Teach is going to be social emotional needs. So in this case, we have a couple of books that you can choose from to send out to your students. They're all just social and emotional books to have students who might need a little bit of help within that area gain them. And then we have the one creativity training activity, the Secret Diary of Adrian Mole. Now, this is very similar to those unit supplements where it's getting worked on and adding in more resources. I know that they plan on adding in a whole bunch of online activities to this as well that you'd be able to share. There's just one thing to check out and push out to students who might be lacking in those social emotional areas. So I'll give everyone like a minute or two to go through some of these and ask any questions when you have them.
Ben, is there a search within this section where if you have a kid that has a specific need, you can find the resource in a more expedient way?
So if they have a specific need for anything, like if you're focusing, are you asking like about social emotional aspect?
Within the social emotional,
So not right now. I could honestly ask our developers to add in a search for here, just to make it easier for finding those specific needs. Yeah, so right after this meeting, I'll send that over to one of our developers, and hopefully they'll be able to add in that search just to go through all of those resources, especially once there's more in here as well. That would be helpful for any teacher. That's awesome, Brooke. All righty. So the next tab under teach is going to be future problem solving. So if everyone would like to go in here, this is going to be another resource. Don't mind the 49. There's 12 scenes in the system that are free. Now I would push this as a like 5th grade and up type resource just because of the wording. But within these projects, we could go over to the future scene list right over here. And then it will pull up those free future scenes that you can choose from for your students. Now, you all can click through and view them. I'd like to describe it as a dystopian setting in the future where your students have to come up with new creative solutions to solve educational disparities or recover from natural disasters. So really, really interesting topics to discuss. And the one thing that I would say is that it's for those older students just because of the text that is presented. It's very text heavy, and you're not going to be having too many 1st or 2nd graders reading through this and understanding everything. So for those older kids, it's definitely doable and really, really cool to see what they can come up with. So after checking out a couple, I'll go over how to create these groups and scenes and then send them out. Okay. So for these scenes, if we'd like to send them out to students, we would just create an FPS group right over here to the right. For this group, you can create it, and it doesn't matter about the number of students that are in it. It could be for one kid, it could be for a group of 3, 14, 20. It's really up to you as to who will be seeing these projects being sent out. But for now, we'll create a new FPS group. We would give them a group name. I'll do new group B. And then we would check off those students. So just check off those 4. And then once we have our students in there, we click next. Now it requires a leader. We're able to edit this whenever. I try and push it out as you can make a new leader every week or 2 weeks, depending on how much time is going to be in the system. The leader doesn't have any access to anything in there that's different, but it's a way to have like one person who is a little bit more in control of like what's happening for that week. So once we have it there, we would click save. And now we would have our new group B right down here where the group leader is Emmanuel Johnson. To assign that future scene, we're going to go to this next tab, assign future scene. And then from here, we're going to assign new future scene. Wow, that's a tongue twister. So we click in, we'll choose our start date, the end date, and then the package is the free one. And then from here, we would just check off toxic materials or whatever it is. Once we have that all set up and we have our group of students that we checked, where's new group B? Right there. We would assign this and close, and now they've all been sent out their new future problem solving assignment to complete. Now, once it's all in there and it's assigned, if you want to check out that work, we can view the assignment right here. And it'll pull up the scene for biosecurity, which is probably the most impossible words to read for a student. Like Dr. Oysten Svensson is the chief biosecurity engineer. Again, that's kind of why I try and push it out as a like 5th grade and up type resource. But you'd go through, students would then work together to identify the challenges within that scene, find the underlying problem, come up with some solution ideas, select the criteria, apply it, and then at the end they'd come up with their action plan as to how they're going to solve biosecurity in the future. Down in the bottom right, it shows you their chat room. Everything in the chat room is recorded and censored, so they can't be saying anything that they wouldn't say in front of you. But you're also able to go in and communicate with them. Anybody whose account it is will populate in blue. So right here, then tomorrow, I'm going through and talking with my students about what they've done. And don't mind it, my students have done nothing. They're all fake. And this is just me having conversation with myself. But it's an easy way to kind of keep track and see what students have been saying. And they can't delete their messages either, so everything will be saved for you to go through. Alrighty, so any questions on that future problem solving or just the entire Teach tab in itself? Yes, Nancy.
Hi, Ben. You're doing
Hi.
a great job here, by the way. With this future problem solving, can I do this across campuses?
Yeah, so as long as you have access to those students in your roster, they could be working together even though they're not in the same school.
Okay, and then is the chat open like all the time, or can I set like hours of when the chat is open?
Yeah, so you could definitely set hours. I'll go through that in like the grouping as to how the chat room works and how you can edit it throughout the time that it's there. But yeah, you can definitely change that to your liking. But again, like everything in there is going to be recorded and censored, so you'll have availability to that chat room whenever.
Okay, and then last question, are the challenges grouped as far as like standards? So are there some more math related or
Oh, yeah, so it really just depends on
different
the
things?
scenes that are in there. Like the ones that I chose to show are just the ones that I really like. Like I love the recovering from natural disasters one is my favorite. But I would just check out the scenes and see if there's anything in there that fits alongside with what you're going for.
Okay, thanks,
Yeah.
Ben.
No problem. Awesome. All right, and then to change over those leaders, which is the last part for this FPS, you're just going to click edit. So if 1 week's passed and you've decided, all right, it's time to switch this leader over to student 4, we can update that, and it's that simple. So right here, you can do those weekly updates as to who's going to be in charge that week. All righty, so the next place that we're all going to be going to is groups. So we'll start off here at local groups. And then from here, we're going to create a new group. Okay, so when we're selecting this option, it's going to be either create a custom group, group by interest areas, learning styles, or expression styles. So again, like if you have some students that are from different campuses and they're in the same grade levels and you want to see which one of them might work together through a online group project, you could check off the learning styles and see which students are interested in peer tutoring. Then from there, the include students with the above selection as there. This is really just going to be breaking it down by students who like peer tutoring as their first choice for learning styles. You can choose first, second, or third. And that really just depends on how many kids you have in the system in your roster. If you're going through 10 kids, it's going to be hard to find a group of 3 for peer tutoring as their first choice. So you would check off whichever one you'd like. Once we have that all set, we'd view our students, check off those kids we'd like to work together. So 3 and 4 is not that crazy of a difference. Maybe we'll leave the kindergartner out of this. But then from here, we can go ahead and create this group name. So we'll do peer tutoring. This is like number 50. And then from there, the group type. Basic is just going to be grouping your students into a basic group. They're not actually working on it together. Whereas collaborative, they're going to be working on it as a team. And then right here, you have your message board, which you can set up and change throughout the entirety of this project. So if we're just going to leave it so students can talk freely whenever they'd like, we could do no and no, submit that. And then afterwards, if we wanted to change it, we can go back to this permissions in our group project and then take away that ability. So if by the end of the day, you wanted to make it so students couldn't send those messages, we would just put yes and yes, submit, and now you just admit them the next day and just change it over. So that's all done from the permissions tab within a group. All righty. So back over to that group instruction. So once our group has been created, it takes us directly over to group instruction. From there, we're going to go ahead and add in what they'll be talking about. So for our student instructions, we'll say work together to complete this project or assignment, whatever it is we're sending out. We'll submit that. The student roster over to the left is going to have our students in this group. Now, for some reason, we have another kid who would like to join, or we have a student who would like to leave. We can always edit this and remove and add students whenever you'd like. So if Ben wanted to join this project, we can just check them off, remove Nikki, and so forth. The teacher roster is going to be pretty much the availability for you to invite teachers into this group project. So if, again, we're at different campuses and I want to work alongside Ben from campus B and this Ben from campus A, and I want to be able to like have group projects with other students, I can invite those teachers, they could upload their roster, we could upload my roster, and we could have students working together on projects or assignments, even though they've never met each other. So that would be one way to collaborate from within a district or school. Again, the permissions tab, you can also check off those students right down here for the ability to write on the message board or auto accept messages. So that's up to you as well. The group work tab is going to be where you can add in those projects or assignments. Now, these are going to be from any projects that you have in the system that you've added to yours. So in my case, I have thousands, so it's really, really annoying to go through. But in your case, if you wanted to send out, become an inventor to this group of students, you would just add it to your projects on your screen. It would populate here, and then we would add in those project dates for them to complete it by. So I'll give them until 11/24, submit that. And then to view the work, just like the future problem solving, it's just the view student work tab right here, where I check in. It'll take me to this group project. It'll have the chat room right down in the bottom once it's been activated. And then I'd be able to go in and see what's been happening. Now, one fun thing about these group projects is not only that the messages record, but whoever's writing what records in here as well. So if my 3 students are all working on this project description, and then I go through and I look, it'll literally show like, how was your day? If student Ben wrote this, it would highlight their name afterwards, and then vice versa for other students. So there's no way that your students could get away with completing the entire project on their own. They'd have to work together, and everybody would have to put in some information. All righty. So any questions on how to send out those group projects, how to create these groups, anything so far within this area? All righty, awesome. So last 2 steps under the groups are the message board and the teacher chat. The message board is going to show these messages that students have sent out from a much bigger point of view. It shows you all of this information up top. So flag for inappropriate language, denied, pending approval. So even if a student decides to send something that doesn't get accepted by the system, so they say something that's inappropriate, it doesn't get sent out to those kids, but it gets sent to you. So you have a chance to basically say, hey, what were you trying to do here? So again, like whatever they're saying, nothing gets deleted, and everything is sent to you. You're basically like the true big brother type figure, where even though other people can't see it, you can. So that's one thing that, again, I'd let them know as well, just to be like another deterrent as to how to actually be appropriate within a chat room. So you go ahead, let them know. And then you also have your teacher chat, which is just between teachers, and you can discuss whatever it is you'd like within this group project. All righty, and that sums up this local group page. Any questions on anything? Did anybody have any trouble creating a group if you have your students in a roster? All righty, awesome. So the next tab under groups is going to be global collaboration. So global collaboration is a global group that's accessible by teachers from all over the world. So pretty much the way that this works is one of 2 ways. A teacher can either create a new group or join a global group that's already active. So in this case, I'll create a new group to start. I'll base it just like before. I'll do custom or based on my students' profiles. Just do custom to start. We'll call this one global collaboration. Give the little set of rules for this chat room to whoever. I'll just put yes and yes for now, and then check off the students that are going to be working on this project. And then from here, once I submit this, the group instructions is basically giving you an idea as to what to inform the other teachers as this project is going to be. So the language for the group, if my students are Spanish speakers, we'll put Spanish. If they're English speakers, we'll put English. For the grade levels, we'll check off whichever grade levels are going to be focused on. It could be K through 8. It could be just 4th grade, the subject area, the anticipated timeline, and then your purpose or goal for this collaborative group. So once we have all of this set, we can add in some student instruction, update that student roster, teacher roster, and then right here, we submit this. And it would populate amongst the global collaboration page for other teachers. So teachers from all over the world would be able to send in a request to upload their kids and themselves into this project, and your kids would be able to collaborate with everyone. Now, the opposite of that is you would just click on the Join a Global Group page. It's typically a lot easier, which is why there's not too many active projects. Another thing is that once the project is full, like once the teacher feels that all of the kids that they would like are in there, they remove it from that Join a Global Group page, and then they get started. So teachers from all over would be able to send you a request, and then once you've found your group, you would remove yourself from that global group page, and you would just be on your global collaboration project. So yeah, any questions within that? Okay, awesome. Not too many questions. Silent group today. All right, so that pretty much sums up the Teach tab, the students, and the groups, because I know that we went over this the other day. So over to the right, we have our messages. Let's see. I think I didn't go over this yet, did I? Okay, awesome. All right, so messages is over to the right. It's going to have your inbox. So any messages that your students are sending over to you, you'll be able to populate right here. It's just your email in the system, I guess you could say. Down below is going to be the send a message. So whenever you'd like to send a message, you just send that subject message, and then you can narrow down the list by group. And then you can also narrow it down by the user type. So if you only want to focus on sending a message out to a teacher, and it's Lucy Jones, we check off Lucy and send over that message. If we're only focusing on our students in our roster today, we'll check off Nikki and Paul and talk about their group project and whatever it might be. It's a pretty simple email chain, I guess, so you shouldn't have too much difficulty there. The toolbox is going to have your teacher calendar. We'll start off there. So any assignments or projects that are having review dates or are due are going to populate right here as a star. So event schedule for today, I have the Gold Rush Adventures assignment for whoever. I've signed it by Ben tomorrow and to Ben tomorrow. So that's always funky. But if we want to view that assignment, we can go ahead and just click view assignment directly from your calendar to see those students and eventually view their finished work. The top rated student activities is going to pull in those ratings that students have done, except on your end, you can narrow it down by the type of resource and then the specific topic. So we'll focus on biomes. So all of the biomes activities that students have taken the time to actually give a rating to, and the highest ones will populate on this screen. So you could share activities that students have used in the past and enjoyed and send them directly over to your students or teachers. So any questions on that one? And then I'll let you all play around with that one too. And yes, Erica, that's 100%. This is just meeting 2 of 3. So there's a whole bunch to go on within Renzulli Learning. And that's why I try and push it out as student driven. Like the teacher site has so much stuff that it's almost ridiculous to choose which you're going to be sending out to your kids. Whereas the students, since it's already brought in and personalized, like especially for those super starters, they'll have 4 projects to choose from instead of a couple hundred on your end. It makes it a lot easier for them to basically find work that's built on their profile, so their interests and learning style. So it's a lot easier if it is student driven, and you just directing them and monitoring them. But we'll go over everything just in case someone's like, oh, I actually want to send out everything to my students. Alrighty, so I'll jump into the next topic, which will be the rest of your toolbox. So notes is the next tab. It'll have all of your notes that you've either taken or you can add. Typically, you're doing most of that outside of the system, but if you are working on it within Renzulli, that's all populated in the toolbox. Any uploads you've done will populate here as well. Your shared files, so anything that you share amongst your students or you can add in a new one will populate here. I'll jump down here first. Submit resources, so you're able to submit resources into the site that could be checked off by curators, and that's another way that stuff is added into Renzulli Learning is by teachers who are current teachers. So that's one way to be adding in work for your students. Your sites visited, so anything that I've visited today, the Fossil Museum tour will populate here, and I can share this or attach it directly from my sites visited page. So I'll share that with a couple students, submit that, and so forth. And then lastly would be the PSP. So this is the personal success plan on your student's account. And this gives you those PowerPoint introductions, the planners, the quick starts, just an idea as to how to use this within the classroom. And I think I might have went over this the other day. So any questions within your teacher toolbox? All righty, awesome. So next tab is going to be reports. So as a teacher, you're able to pull in reports. Now, it might not be exactly what you're thinking it's going to be. It's not like a report card where it has A's, B's, and C's. This is going to be a report where you can group your students who have similar patterns or interests together, or just kind of get a full scale of those student profilers. So if I want to run a report by grade level or school, select the type of report. So if I'm only focusing on learning styles and peer tutoring, once I submit this, it'll pull up those students who have similar learning styles within peer tutoring. So my 3 kids, it shows me their interest areas. So student 5, social action, athletics, video photography, Nikki, history and social studies, social action, video and photography, and then student 2, technology, math, science. So just off this, we can kind of see that these 2 students are a little bit more close together with their interests, their learning styles, peer tutoring, games, peer tutoring, discussions. So right here, Nikki and student 5 are both going to be working pretty well together on these group projects. So we can go ahead and create that group together here, or we can go back and create it within a local group. And we can also return and just run a full report of all of our students' top 3 interest areas, learning styles and expression styles, and just get that view where it's just all in order and you can go through it that way. So that's pretty much the way that reports work. If you've got 100 kids, this might be a giant list, but it's definitely something where you could break it down into those specifics just by checking off the areas beforehand. So any questions on the reports? All righty, awesome. So back over to the dashboard then, since pretty much all of these have been talked over. So I'll go over the last couple things for today. So up on top, we have my dashboard where you also have that submit resource again, but right here is going to be the weekly lesson ideas. So if we click in here, we can check out some of the weekly lesson ideas that have been sent out. So if we want to check out STEM, it'll break down the STEM activities for K2, 3 through 5, 6 through 9. We can just go directly to these activities here by viewing and then send them out afterwards. And yeah, that's one way to kind of focus in on some areas that you might not have thought about. So the weekly lesson ideas is definitely a fun one. They get updated pretty typically, I'd say like once a month, they'll update like 4 or 5 to go through. And then they'll also leave the previous ones as well. So if you ever want to go back to something specific, you can. And I'll let everyone go through those as well. And that's again, right back on the dashboard, weekly lesson ideas. Okay. So next one is going to be the project showcases, which we pretty much create our own showcases for our students here. Now, one thing that I'm not sure if I mentioned last time is that you can make it specific for that one student. So if I wanted to create a showcase for, let's say, Liam Archer, I'd go ahead and check off Liam within that new showcase. Give the showcase name, and it could just be Liam Archer's product portfolio. Check off these areas that I'd like to focus in on and leave a welcome message. And then once I submit this, that'll populate onto Liam's homepage. And in this case, this could be for 1 year, it could be there forever. It would just have those finished works all populate onto this page. So it'd be a really easy way to have something to send home to parents with everything that they've done within a year, to send over to the next school year's teacher who will be having this kid. So it's a super simple way just to have all of that completed work in one form and be able to send it out. And again, in the hypothetical, you have a kindergartner all the way up to 12th grade, submit all of their work, they could have their lifelong projects that they've done throughout ever. So yeah, that would be a cool way to kind of create these project showcases and have it student-based or based on like a grade level or school here, just by checking off the grade levels of those kids. So the other way that you could use it is you could have it be for your entire classroom. So I'll add in that new class. We'll do students. We'll focus on grade 4 and then check off all of those grade 4 kids. And now we have our grade 4 showcase, where again, it could be for just one singular project, or it could be for the entirety of our grade 4 projects that have been submitted. And then now we'd have that new showcase that our students could all add in those new projects to. As a teacher, we can add in projects as well. So it's a really, really quick and easy way to have that showcase environment. Any questions on those showcases? How to create them, how to manage them? Okay. Alrighty. So as we go down, we have our favorites tab right here, which is also on that Teach tab. So it's just pretty much having everything on your dashboard for you to review. Underneath that, we have the featured activity. Now this changes on like an hourly basis within a teacher's account. So you can just go through and see these activities to see if it's something that you'd like to send out to your kids. You just click in and then share alongside students if it's something that fit alongside. And then it also has some standards that correlate to this that you can choose from as well. Down below, the free Renzulli Home Edition. So if you have kids at home that you'd like to use this with as a Renzulli learning teacher, you're able to use this for free at your home with your own kids. So that's one thing. And then you also have the free course, Become a Renzulli Certified Educator, which gives you 9 contact hours. That has a certification from University of Connecticut that's sent over to you after completion. So that's one way to kind of get a better understanding as to, 1, how to work through the site, and 2, it also gives you the entire pedagogy and work of, well, lifelong work of Dr. Renzulli and Sally Reese. So that's a pretty cool way to kind of get a much better understanding as to what Renzulli learning is and what it's been doing for the past like 35 years, and how it's been used in the past. And yeah, that's like a quick little description for day 2. I know that Tony has some more for day 3. But for now, if everyone just wants to kind of play around with the teacher site, try sending out some lessons, projects, assignments, resources, whatever it might be, I'll be here to answer any questions that you might have about how to work through. Yes, Cassandra.
So I'm gonna go back to that first day on Tuesday.
Mhm.
I had my kids jump into the enrichment activities, and they were doing the critical thinking activities.
Mhm.
Refresh my memory, are some of them like timed, or do I have to set a time limit? And here's what I'm asking, or why I'm asking. One kid jumped into a game, and it was like a math game, but he like kept going, and I said, okay, like I didn't know if it would stop him eventually. Do I have to give a time limit so he has time to do his self-assessment? How does that look?
So it doesn't have like a time limit within the specific activity. So what I would recommend is that when you're telling your students, all right, everyone log into Renzulli Learning and complete a critical thinking activity. Just let them know that afterwards they have to submit that self-assessment or journal entry. So almost say like with the last 5 or 10 minutes of the time period that you're letting them into the system, to save that and complete the self-assessments. Or maybe you'll say, all right, everybody, it's time to complete your self-assessments at the end.
Okay.
But yeah, like on the student roster, the live student activity ticker is what's going to show you the time spent. So that would be one way to kind of monitor the time, but it doesn't actually stop them from viewing that
Right.
activity at the end.
Perfect. Okay, that answers my question. Thank you so much.
All right, no problem. Thank you, Brooke. I love the everybody likes accommodation.
Any other questions, anyone for Ben? Well, Ben, this is amazing. I really think that, and I just checked and we are fully out of seats available, so that's good news. So that shows me that we may have to up our subscription, and you did a great job of explaining everything. So
Thank you.
yeah, unless anyone else has any questions, we can let Ben go. And we'll see Tony, I guess,